I've never met such countless quitters and are people of color in the stage. I can't, for my respectability, stand up here and let everyone that is relying on me disintegrate so I can say something. I've never met such countless individuals of color that have no goddamn spine. I could mind not as much as your opinion on me. Assuming you felt that Steve Harvey had sufficient show on his plate with the ongoing reports about his dear spouse engaging in extramarital relations, obviously this was the ideal beginning for the notable television host and comic. Presently, it appears as though Steve's kindred entertainer Monique is uncovering Harvey's real essence, and she purportedly called him the most weakness man in the entire Hollywood. It seems like Monique can't process her sibling, Steve. So we should get to the subtleties of their meet. So it appears as though it's not the most ideal period for Steve Harvey. What's more, his name is being hauled through the mud by web savages, however his partners also. Jokester Monique, who is known for her courageous showdowns, is with the most impressive figures of the business, is currently, after Steve occurs. Locally, they make them pursue the sack and not rule and not trustworthiness. As per Monique, Steve Harvey is a terrible man who values abundance in his situation in the entertainment biz more than truth. Furthermore, with regards to unforgiving decisions and picking sides, Steve adheres to the people who feed him and his loved ones. Presently, notwithstanding being the foundation grand champ, Monique doesn't adapt to the guidelines of the business. Yet, she accepts that her sibling Steve has long offered his spirit to Hollywood and can undoubtedly blame everything on everybody to keep his standing and picture the cash. Be that as it may, stand by a moment. Assuming I disintegrate, in the event that my youngsters disintegrate, my grandkids disintegrate. Presently, Monique is calling him out on the grounds that she genuinely accepts they were in a comparable situation. Yet, evidently cash changed Steve a great deal and he turned into the individual who can't manage being crude and legitimate any longer. Not at all like Steve, Monique won't hesitate to remain against the most remarkable figures in the business. Also, as you most likely are aware, her was debased for a really long time, 13 years in light of the fact that attempting to hold fast since the hour of her problem with Tyler Perry, Oprah and Lee Daniels, Monique was never hesitant to sound cruel, and she fearlessly communicated her cynicism about the disparity that is occurring in the stage. Nonetheless, as she's adage, the strong figures like Steve Harvey, who could ring in and show a guide to people in the future of dark craftsmen, are too weakness and hold to their heap of money not having the option to get out whatever they think. Yet, when it happened, goodness, you're conflicting with the people pulling the strings. Furthermore, I maintain that the powers should be that, no, I'm not on that side. Presently, you folks might say that Monique simply adores show and making new adversaries, yet when you begin to dig further, you might see that her fights don't come from no place. Folks, in 2022, during a show in Detroit, Monique made some extreme memories due to her contact issues. What's more, from the stage she chose to hammer at each and every individual who was tormenting her life as an entertainer and performer. What's more, surmise whose name sprung up. Go. Steve Harvey. D.L. Hughley. I gave you all that you want to bargain. Presently, Monique is saying that Steve Harvey comprehends the principles of show of dominance in the business, and he does all that to safeguard himself from the public embarrassment. Also, evidently he was prepared to forfeit his great relationship and kinship with the entertainer to keep his situation and status. In any case, notwithstanding the detestable and tricky individuals around, Monique actually get a ton of help from her better half, who shares her perspectives on the business and its horrible games. To ask yourself, can you live with yourself for doing it the correct way as opposed to playing by their guidelines? Be that as it may, stop and think for a minute, folks. Seems as though Steve Harvey could do without to be hated. That and this was the time he chose to step in and address the developing measure of discuss his weak way of behaving and nature. Be that as it may, assuming you think he at any point apologized to Monique and agreed with her stance, indeed, you don't have any idea how much this man cherishes his cash. Steve rushed to answer that he had never been the genuine issue for the repudiated entertainer, and she is looking only for somebody accessible to point her finger at. As the family quarrel have expressed. Allow me just to open by saying I could mind under and about your opinion on me in light of the fact that obviously I'm not your concern. Notwithstanding, as Monique accepts, Harvey could utilize his situation and impact to assist her with her battle against the strong figures who tormented her reality. In any case, as a matter of fact, he picked a method of defeatist who sits on his sack brimming with cash and deny the unforgiving truth. Furthermore, that is the point at which I take a gander at my sibling and I say, "How dare you, Steve?" Indeed, many individuals concur with Monique that Steve Harvey doesn't compare to his picture of an incredible relationship master and liberal man, and he stresses more over his own skin than the shared objectives of the African American population. Presently, fans are commending Monique for uncovering the malevolent individuals, and they trust her voice will be heard. As one client composed, Monique got down on Lee Daniels, Tyler Perry, Oprah, and Steve Harvey. Up until this point, Daniels is the one in particular that apologized. Individuals realize she was talking truth. Much love for Monique. Also, another client added, "I love her. She a genuine lady. Try not to keep down how she feels for nobody. Assuming you take anything, you won't not represent anything." In any case, here's an origin story why Monique is so pissed at Steve Harvey and think that he has decided to be with the elites and strong figures as opposed to battle for reality. The Oscar-winning entertainer addressed him on his syndicated program about being named as troublesome. Harvey told her she did an insult to herself with that multitude of hamburgers and seek after of truth and equity. "I thought you went about it wrong. Obviously, I felt that you had given yourself a raw deal by the manner in which you decided to go about it." As per Monique, Steve was attempting to drive her into tolerating the story of the business, saying that her situation and quarrel with the strong figures was silly and in the end she wouldn't win in light of the fact that nobody does. Steve fundamentally advised her to wrap up her mission and acknowledge the standards of the game. At the point when you come clean, you need to manage the repercussions of reality. "We shut down here. We can't get over here and would it a significantly way we like to." What's more, Steve later added, the entertainer ought to have halted, stressed over her trustworthiness and truth and investigate her financial balance, on the grounds that being in a Broadway implies playing high-stake cash games. The person of color's down. This ain't the white man's down. It's the cash game. Be that as it may, we in the cash game and you can't forfeit yourself. Presently, obviously Steve Harvey picked his side, and the totality of his pockets concerns him more than whatever else. Obviously, he's one of those individuals who indiscriminately consented to the Hollywood guidelines and deceived their real essence since they need cash and achievement. Right now, Monique is disheartened in Steve on the grounds that there isn't anything genuine left in him, just the longing for abundance. Obviously, subsequent to getting enormous reaction for his weakness position, Steve Harvey needed to ponder what he had said. Furthermore, as he referenced later, the greatest piece of that discussion was altered and didn't make the finished product for Monique's insurance. At the end of the day, the meeting truly was 52 minutes altered to safeguard her since it was some truly insane stuff. Nonetheless, there's conviction that, as a matter of fact, Steve was just safeguarding himself since we definitely know how weak the television have is to any sort of analysis and backfire and how he enthusiastically will express anything to keep his pockets filled and having the chances of a favored individual he's getting a charge out of this moment. As you recollect, toward the start of his profession, Steve was living in his vehicle, and I bet he wants to lead such a melancholy way of life once more. So this is the very thing he replied about his entire remark.